The very hungry caterpillar. In the light of the moon, a little egg lay on a leaf. One Sunday morning, the warm sun came up and pop! Out of the egg came a tiny and very hungry caterpillar. He started to look for some food. On Monday, he ate through one apple, but he was still hungry. On Tuesday, he ate through 2 pears, but he was still hungry. On Wednesday, he ate through 3 plums, but he was still hungry. On Thursday, he ate through 4 strawberries, but he was still hungry. On Friday, he ate through 5 oranges, but he was still hungry. On Saturday, he ate through 1 piece of chocolate cake, 1 ice cream cone, 1 pickle, 1 slice of Swiss cheese, 1 slice of salami, 1 lollipop, 1 piece of cherry pie, 1 sausage, 1 cupcake, and 1 slice of watermelon. That night, he had a stomachache. The next day was Sunday again. The caterpillar ate through 1 nice green leaf, and after that, he felt much better. Now he wasn't hungry anymore, and he wasn't a little caterpillar anymore. He was a big, fat caterpillar. He built a small house called a cocoon around himself. He stayed inside for more than 2 weeks. Then he nibbled a hole in the cocoon, pushed his way out, and he was a beautiful butterfly. Hi, so today we are going to look at an extended piece of writing. So we're going to look at a bit more writing than just 1 sentence or some words. So you will definitely need something to write on and something to write with. And how we are going to do this is we are going to write together. I will guide you, but your writing won't necessarily look like mine. So what we are going to do today is we are going to write about real events. So we are going to write about ourselves and something that we have done. Now, sometimes this can be one of the hardest things in the world to do, just because we just can't remember. In which case we could absolutely make it up because nobody would know. The theory is that it is easier to write about things that we have experienced and we know, but I know from experience that sometimes it's not. So either one would absolutely work. The event that I would like you to think about could be absolutely anything. It could just be a normal day. It could just be something that you did at the weekend. Or it could be a time that you visited a special place or you did something fun. And that fun thing could be absolutely anything because it's your fun thing. And what you find fun, I might not find fun. And certainly the other way around, things I find fun, you probably wouldn't. So it can be anything that you want it to be. And we are going to write about it. When it comes to an extended piece of writing, we just have to break it down so that we are writing 1 sentence at a time. In which case, we can do that. We can write sentences. Which of our 4 types of sentences do you think that we will need to write about real events? Sort of like a recount of what we did. Sort of like a little diary of what we did. Do you think we will need questions? Probably not. We might, but probably not. Do you think we will need commands? No, we're certainly not going to be telling anybody what to do if we're just writing about what we've done. Will we need questions? No, probably not. Not unless we were trying to do a diary and we were trying to engage the reader, in which case we might ask a question. But generally, if we're just writing a recount of what we have done, we don't need those. So what's the last one? Which one do we need? Can you remember? Yeah, well done. We'll need statements. So we are going to write lots and lots of statements. They are going to flow and follow on from each other, and they will therefore end in full stops. So each of our sentences will end in a full stop. And we are going to write sentence by sentence because that's far easier than trying to just write and write and write and write and write. Because if we make mistakes and we forget our punctuation, then it's much harder to go back and put the punctuation in than it is to get it right as we go along. So I am going to think about a day, and I'm going to start at the beginning of the day and I'm going to work my way through. So I'm going to think of what happened first, and then next, and then next, and then next, and then next, until I get to the end of my day. Because generally, when we are writing a recount, so when we are writing about something that has happened, writing it in order is much easier for somebody that is reading it than just having a jumble of thoughts. In my extended piece of writing, I am going to try and remember to use some of the things that I know how to use. So I am going to use my capital letters, I'm going to space my words well and then use spaces in between them, use finger spaces. I am going to end each sentence with a full stop. I know that a sentence needs a who and a what. I might try and join some sentences together using conjunctions, using the word and, but, so, because, in which case I know that I have two phrases, two parts of my sentence, a before the conjunction and an after the conjunction before I need my full stop. I might try to use some adjectives to describe. Now, I've said this before, but I think that it is useful when I am writing to practice my writing. So we all have to practice at everything to get good. And when I'm writing just to practice my writing, I would write down a list of all the things that I was going to try and include in my piece of writing so that I could then refer back to that and check them off, and I could make sure that I was doing that. And if I hadn't, then I could try to do that in my next sentence. So if I have it next to me, then I can do that all the way through. So I actually have another board that can go up behind me. So maybe that's what we should start with. So let's have a think, see if you can have a think too, about all the things that we would want to include in a piece of writing, and then we can tick them off as we go. So I am going to start with capital letters. We absolutely need to remember capital letters for the beginning of sentences, for the word I, for names of people, places, days of the week, months of the year, seasons. All those proper nouns need capital letters. I know that it's mainly full stops that I will be using because I am going to be writing statements. So I am going to remember full stops. I am going to remember finger spaces. I'm going to remember to space my writing well. I am going to think about adjectives. So I am going to think about including description in my writing to make it a bit more engaging for anybody that was trying to read it. So I'm going to include adjectives in there. I'm going to try and use some conjunctions. So I'm going to try and join some of my ideas together. If I'm using adjectives, then I could get commas in there too, because I know that if I use two adjectives before my noun, I need a comma. So I'm going to try and get some commas in there too. I could try and use some contractions. So I could try and use two words that go together and then there's missing letters and we have to use an apostrophe. I could try and use some of those. What else could I try and get in there? Or I could try and use some suffixes. So I could try my hand at using meant or full or less. Remember, if we're using full as a suffix, it only has one L, or ly, or ing, or ed. Yeah. Okay, I think that's quite a lot of things that I want to try and get into my piece of writing. So what I'm going to do I'm going to put it up behind me so that we can all see it. There we go, look. And then we can all use that as a handy little list to refer to while we are doing our writing. And I'll make sure that I'm this side of it. You might also want to think about the way that you're writing as well. So if you know that the size of your letters is something you find tricky, you could add that onto your list. Or if you're particularly trying to join your letters together, again, you could add that onto your list. Anything can go on there, really. Anything that you are trying to get good at including in your writing. So I'm going to start with the word yesterday. I'm not actually going to talk about yesterday because it wouldn't take me very long. Because I didn't do all that much yesterday, but nobody would know that. So I can start with the word yesterday because it indicates that I'm talking about the past, and then I can start to think about my day. Remember that I am going to start at the beginning of my day and work through so that it's in order as much as it can be. That will certainly help. So you could start with the word yesterday, or you could start with when I went to the park or the beach or my friend's house, or we did this. So yesterday I went to the park, and I'm going to say who I went with. So yesterday I went to the park with my nephew. Now that there for me is my first sentence. It's got a who and a what. And I also explained, because it's me, it's I, and then I also added extra detail by saying who with. But that's the end of my first sentence, so I will need a full stop. Now, the best way of keeping on track of that is to say your full sentence to yourself, sometimes more than once. The rule always used to be that when we were learning to write sentences with my little people in the classroom, the rule would always be that we would say it 3 times and then we would have a go at writing it down. But if it's a longer sentence, you might not need to do it 3 times. And also, if you can remember it because it's your sentence, then you don't need to. You can reduce that. But I would make an effort to say your full sentence before you write it down, because then you will know when your punctuation needs to come in. Okay, so yesterday I went to the park with my nephew. Then I'm going to think about what things we did. So I might say we had a lovely time playing on the swings and he wanted me to push him higher and higher. So there, I've got my second sentence. And then if I check against my list, I am consistently using capital letters and full stops and my finger spaces. Oh, I said I had a lovely time, but I can definitely do better at the adjectives. So in my next sentence, I'll try and do better with those. But I have used a conjunction, I've used the word and to join something on. I have used a comma because I used it after the word yesterday because I started my sentence with when, so you can use a comma there. But my aim was to do that in between adjectives. I certainly haven't done that yet, so I'll try. I haven't used a contraction yet, but I have got an ly, an ing, and an ed. So I have got some of my suffixes. So I know that the one thing that I'm really lacking is adjectives. So that's what I'm going to aim to get in my next sentence. What do you need to get in your next sentence, which is the one that you really don't have in your writing so far? Remember, then we're going to pick a next thing. So I said we had a lovely time playing on the swings and he wanted me to push him higher and higher. So then I would think about something that came next after the swings, and I'm looking for adjectives here. So I think I'm going to say we wanted, I'm going to say he loved going on the slippy red slide, but he was sad that I couldn't go down it too. So he loved, so I've got an ed there, going, an ing there, on the slippy red slide. So I can use that comma because I've used 2 adjectives there. He loved going on the slippy red slide, but he was sad when I couldn't, so I've also got my contraction in there too, couldn't go down too. Okay, and then I continue. So I talked about the swings, I talked about the slide. One of the other things that fills him with joy, just that makes him super joyful, so I could use the word joyful, is the roundabout. So I would probably write about that next. And then I might write about the fact that we walked home and we played in the leaves and we saw dogs, and I could describe the dogs, I could describe the leaves. So all I am doing is thinking about a day, thinking about an activity, and then going sentence by sentence, making sure that each one has a who and a what, and then trying really hard to include some of those other things that I know will make my writing the best that it can be. It's a great way to practice. It's writing about things that we already know. Keep going with your piece of writing. See if you can go through your whole day and then maybe share it with somebody else. Whatever you do the rest of your day though, have a great one. Well done. Bye-bye. Hi. So today we are going to have a look at measuring in centimetres and metres. On this first slide here, there are a couple of different things there. There's a ruler, which is the one at the top. And then there's a tape measure. In fact, there are 2 tape measures. There's a soft one, which is usually used for fabric, and then there is a hard one, which is usually used for DIY. Now, we use them for different things, but generally, if we only have to measure something small, we would measure using a ruler, and if we need to measure something big, we would measure using one of those tape measures. And the difference between them is that that tape measure will go up meters and meters. But the ruler, well, that ruler only goes up to 15 centimetres. I have a ruler here that goes up to 30 centimetres. that's only a little bit bigger than my head. There aren't many things that we could measure using a ruler, only small things. So there are two terms here that we need to know. We need to know centimetres and we need to know metres. Centimetres are little, like a centipede, they're little, and metres are big. So centimetres for little things and metres for big things. We can use a ruler for measuring centimetres, but we can't use it for measuring metres, or we can use a tape measure for measuring in centimetres and in metres. It has both on. There are 100 centimetres in a metre. So a metre is made up of 100 centimetres. Okay, let's have a little look then. On the picture here, there are various different things. There's a car, there's a leaf, there's a cup, there's a pen, there's a book, there's a room, and there's a bunny. Which of these things do you think we would measure in centimetres, and which of these things do you think that we would measure in metres? Remember, centimetres are little and metres are big. Yeah, absolutely. I think we would measure the car and the room in metres. And I think we would measure the rabbit, the leaf, the cup, the pen and the book in centimetres. Now the leaf, I guess it depends on the size of the plant, because some leaves are small, some leaves are really, really big. But in order for it to be metres, it would have to be really quite big. Not to say it couldn't be. I would say that centimetres would be a better bet though. Okay, let's have a look at ordering these crocodiles. So can you have a look and see which one you think is the smallest from snout to tail? So we're going to measure the length of them. And if we're measuring the length, then we're measuring from snout to tail, measuring from the very first bit to the very last bit. And in this case, that's snout and tail. So which one do you think is the smallest one? That comes first. That would be number 1 crocodile. And then which would be number 2, which would be number 3, which would be 4, and which is the biggest one, which would be number 5. I will give you a few seconds to have a little look at that and see if you can work out which one you think is which. And then I will show you the answer. Remember, we're looking at the length, so we're looking at measuring across the crocodile from his snout to his tail. Which is the smallest one, we're putting that at one end, and which is the biggest because we're putting that at the other. Do you think you know? Okay, let's have a look then. So I have started with the smallest one being number 5. So we're going to do a countdown. So smallest one is 5. Did you get that as the smallest one? Yeah. And then next to him is 4. Down at the bottom is 3. At the top there is 1, and that at the top there is 2, and then at the bottom is 1. And that's quite clearly number 1 because he is significantly bigger than any of the other crocodiles on that page. So we can measure going this way, we can measure across, but we can also measure by height. So here are some giraffes. This time we're going to measure how tall they are. So we're going to predict the same thing, so the smallest to the biggest or the biggest to the smallest, it doesn't really matter. But can you put them in order from the smallest one through to the biggest one? Now in this case, we're measuring from the top of his tufts to the bottom of his hooves. So that's what we're looking for, from the top of his horns to the bottom of his hooves will be the measurement, because we're measuring the height this time. Do you think you know which order they go in? There we go. Wonder if that's the order that you got them in. Well done, nice job. Okay, and then let's have a look at how we would actually go about measuring them. So these guys are centimetres because they are pictures and they have to fit on our screen. When we are looking at using that ruler, sometimes the end of the ruler is 0, like on this one here. But often it's not. On the ruler on the screen, you can see that 0 is marked with a 0 and there's a bit before it. So we have to make sure that that 0 is placed on the very end of the thing that we want to measure. So we place the 0 on the very end, and then our reading comes from the other end. Now, sometimes that will work perfectly because you'll be able to see exactly where it is, and sometimes it's a little bit above where the ruler is, so you'll just have to look up and down to check where it is. So the end of his tail isn't perfectly in line with isn't sitting on the ruler, it's a bit above it, so we'll have to just look down to where the end of his tail is. Now I make that out that his tail, the top one, finishes in between, in the middle of 9 and 10. Now on a ruler and a measuring tape measure, each of those little lines in between is actually worth 1. So we could count up to exactly where it is, and we would know how many would be, how many little bits more. They're called millimeters. But in actual fact, this is smack bang in the middle of 9 and 10. It's at the bigger line in the middle, so I know that it's 9.5. Or if I wanted to show it as the millimeters as well, what I would do is I would have 9.5 centimeters. So this is my 9 centimeters, and then it's a decimal point, but it's almost where it's like a full stop. So this is centimeters, full stop, and then the millimeters come after. But because these are part of a centimeter, so it takes 10 of these to make a full centimeter. So if I counted up, and actually it wasn't 5 of those little lines at all, it was just 4, then I would write down 9.4. So if it's in between 2 centimeter lines, then we have the number that it's gone past, then the decimal point, the full stop in maths, and then how many of those little lines it's gone past. So let's have a look at the teeny tiny crocodile. How many centimeters is the teeny tiny crocodile? It's definitely more than 2, isn't it? So I'm going to write down 2. I'm going to put that decimal point, that mathematical full stop in, and then I'm going to work out how many past the 2 it is. And I think it goes 2 lines past the 2. So I write down 2.2 centimeters. Because it was 2 full centimeters and 2 little bits of a centimetre. Okay, what about the one at the bottom then? How big is the one at the very bottom of the page? So we're measuring the length of him, and his snout is on the 0, so we just need to read off the other end of it. So let's have a look. It's definitely gone past the 3, but it's definitely not at the 4, is it? I think that it is probably on the number 7 one, so I think it's 3.7 centimeters. 3.7 centimeters. And then we've got 1 left, haven't we? There's 1 more left that we haven't measured, and that ruler is on his snout, and it's gone past the 4 definitely, but he's definitely not at the 5, is it? So how many little lines has it gone past? Yeah, I agree. I think it's gone past 4. So 4 centimeters, decimal point 4. So 4.4 centimeters. 4 centimeters plus 4 little lines. And then we put the centimeters at the end just to show what we're measuring in, because in actual fact, there could be lots of different measurements. It could be that crocodile is huge and he's 4.4 meters. So he's 4 meters and then 40 centimeters, because there are 40 centimeters, because there are 100 centimeters in a meter. Okay, let's have a look then at measuring some giraffes. So this time we're measuring from the top to the bottom. So the 0 I have made sure is in the right place for each of them. So we just need to read off the bottom. And this is a little bit easier to do in terms of the fact that the hooves actually are over the ruler, but it doesn't particularly change the job that we have to do. So let's start on the left hand side. How many full centimeters? 3 full centimeters, definitely. It's gone past the 3, but it hasn't got to the 4. And then how many little lines has it gone? It's definitely gone past that 5 line, hasn't it? And I think it's gone past the Yeah, I think you could say that it was at the 6, couldn't you? So if we were writing it down, we would have 3.6 centimetres for that first giraffe there. Well done. Okay, what about that tiddly one? How tall is he? How tall is that little giraffe? So remember, we're looking at which one it's gone past already. We write that down. And then we put the decimal point, the full stop for Maxim. And then we look at how many little lines, and that's what we put in next. So where are you at? And then we have cm afterwards for centimetres. That's what that stands for. Where are you at? I got 2.4 centimetres. You did too, well done. Oh wow, the next one is huge. How big is the next one then? How many centimetres can you use the ruler to measure off? Oh yeah. He is exactly 10 centimetres. That one was easy, wasn't it? Okay, let's have a look at the next one over then. Remember, we're looking for the centimetre it's gone past first. We write that down. Then we put the decimal point in, and then we write how many little lines it's gone past as well. So in this case, I think, let's see if we agree. Yeah, well done, 5.3 centimetres. It had gone past 3 more of those little lines. Okay, and then there's one more giraffe. How big is that last giraffe? Now I can do this quickly because I haven't counted all of the ones that it's gone past. I've just counted the ones it hasn't and taken those off. 8.9. Yeah, because he'd gone past the 8, but he was actually only 1 away from 9 centimetres. So I knew it must be 0.9 because I knew that there were 10 lines in between. So when it comes to using measures, we can use a ruler or we can use a tape measure. The centimetres are the ones that count in ones. There are 100 of them in a metre. So you will have to get up to the number 99 and then it will say 1 metre on the tape measure. And the bits that are in between the centimetres are millimetres. So they're even smaller, they're millimetres. And that is what we have here. So we have 8.9 centimetres. If we were working in metres, if we had some metres and then some centimetres, then we could use something similar to write that down too. So for example, if we had 9 metres and then 10 centimetres, what we would write down is this. We would write 9.1 metres. Because when it comes to measurements, we don't use a 0 at the end. Okay, if it was the other way round, we would need to use the 0 as a placeholder, but when it comes to measuring, we don't normally add it on. We keep it as concise, as short as we possibly can. So centimetres are small, well done. Metres are big, and we can mix and muddle them up to get the most accurate thing possible. And all we have to remember is that we start at the very start of what we're trying to measure, and then we end at the very end of the thing that we're trying to measure to get the most accurate measurement. Brilliant, great job. Whatever you do with the rest of your day, have a great one. Bye bye. So it is spring here at the Olympic, the very, very beginning of spring, but it is spring here, and we thought we'd have a look at what's around and about already, and then we can come back in a couple of weeks' time and we'll see what else is in and growing and how they have changed. So in here we have got blueberries and red currants and raspberries, and at the moment you can see that they are very woody, but they will get their leaves hopefully very soon, and then those leaves will flower, and then those flowers will give way to fruit, hopefully lots and lots of it a bit later in the season. So over here, these are strawberry plants. They're going to be transferred into these really big containers, which will hopefully give them a bit more room to grow. At the moment there's quite a lot of plants in a tub at the moment, just because we were transferring them over. But you can tell the strawberry plant because of the shape of the leaf. They're a bit furry, often they're a bit speckledy because they try and fit in with their natural surroundings, and generally there are lots of like brambles and things like that that grow around strawberries, which obviously strawberry plants think are great because they need all the protection they can get so that birds and bugs and things don't eat their fruit. But at the moment they're not particularly huge. There's certainly no signs of fruit anywhere. It's just leaves and stems in there at the moment, but hopefully tail end of spring, beginning of summer, there will be lots and lots of fruit, and they will have moved home into the big containers so that they can have all the room they need for their growing. And in actual fact, these containers that they're currently in will then have potatoes in, so they will be reused for growing something different. In this one, if we look really closely, we can see the tiny sprouts of the start of onions, and there's garlic in these two as well, so we can just start to see that they are popping through now, and what will happen is they will shoot through and they'll grow up nice and tall, and that's how we'll know exactly where they are and where to harvest them. At the moment it just looks like a big ball of mud unless you zoom in quite close, but it won't be. There will be lots and lots of garlic and onions to harvest from there a bit later in the season. It takes quite a long time to grow garlic and onions. In this one here we have a plum tree. Now this is quite a new plum tree for us. There's another one just over there as well. You can just see it. They're a bit spindly. They're not particularly strong trees at the moment. That's because they're relatively new. They are, you can see that it's still in the pot at the moment because it will come out of here and it will go and be planted in the orchard just a little bit further up with the other trees. But at the moment we won't get fruit from these this year, so they'll flower and they'll look pretty, but there won't be any fruit this year because it takes a couple of years to establish them and for us to get fruit from them. And then this is where they will be coming to spend their days. So they will be planted in the little orchard bit that has the apple trees and the pear trees and the currant bushes, and there'll be space for them in here. That's where they will go. They'll be planted straight into the ground, and then they'll be able to grow as big as they need to in order to bear fruit. They won't grow to be huge trees like these ones. It takes a very long time for trees to grow to be as big as the ones that we can see in the distance. But we also don't need them to be this big in order to bear fruit, and it's much easier to harvest when the trees and the branches are low. So this is the next plot on from ours, and you can see these here are their onions. They're a little bit further ahead than ours are. So they sort of look like long grass, but that's what they'll look like. And then the onion bulbs themselves are underneath the ground. And then there's only really one more thing that we can have a look at today that is growing. We'll have a quick nosy in the other growing spaces, but they're all empty at the moment, just ready for all of the seeds and bulbs and things that are germinating to come down. But it's been a really long cold winter this year, so not so early. So here is our last thing that we can look at, and spring's finally sprung in here. So this is rhubarb, and it has the best leaves, and when we come back in a couple of weeks time you'll see that these leaves will be huge. They grow really big, and they take over, and it is indeed actually this bit here. It is the stalk of the rhubarb that we eat, and it is absolutely delicious. Quite sour, but it tastes really good. And obviously you can see we have quite a good crop of rhubarb over the space of the year. So it is a couple of months later, back at the allotment, and as you'll see, it's very much late spring now. Everything is in full bloom. All the trees are out, all the leaves are on the trees now, and there's lots of fruit, or the very beginnings of fruit. So let's go and have a little look and see how things have changed. So if we start down this end of the allotment, then we've got all those berry bushes and fruit trees. So at the moment, they're all really lush and green. They look very different from when we were here last time. And if we look closely, then you can see the starts of the fruit. Obviously, none of this is good for picking just yet because it's either way too small or not yet ripe. You can also see, if I come just up here, there are pears on the pear trees too. So you can see that these are pears because of the shape of them. The apples are a completely different shape. The apples are round, and this one here, even, this is a plum tree. So this here is a little plum, and those there are little plums too. So we've got apples and pears all growing here, and as you can see, the fruits are on the trees now. So the leaves are lovely and green, the trees are lovely and full, sort of perfect for mid to late spring. And lots of fruit growing on all of those bushes, and I'll take you just inside the net and show you the raspberries that we looked at earlier in the season as well. So as you can see, this has changed somewhat from when we were in here in the winter. It's wintered really well and everything is growing lovely. We've got lovely strong plants in here, and if we look down here, then you can see all of the lovely fruit on its way through. These are all blueberries on these ones down here, and then these ones in the next ones. All of these huge plants here are all raspberries, and it is just about the start of the season. You can see just here the first raspberry of the season. We'll try that in a minute and see what that's like. But you can see that there's lots of raspberries. So this is what the raspberries look like before, obviously, they go pink. When they're pink, you can just give them a little tug, and if they're ready, then they will come off, and if they're not, then they won't. If they won't come off, then you're best to leave them because they'll just be a little bit tough. They're not quite ready. There's quite a lot of fruit on these bushes here. Now the plants themselves are relatively prickly, the actual sort of like leaves. There will be a really good harvest of raspberries to have in here a little bit later in the season. Okay, so in these here we had the start of onions and garlic, and the onions are very much doing really well. The onions are nearly ready. You can see at the bottom here, this is the root here, which is obviously the onion bit that we will eat. These ones are going a little bit far because you can see the top bit here, look, where they're going to seed. The seeds are starting to grow again, so we need to get those out of the ground pretty soon. These need a bit of a weed. The other plants are growing beautifully in the sunshine around them as well. But what will happen is these will come out, they will pull out of the ground, and then the onion we will leave to dry in the sun, and then they'll be perfect. They'll last us through the summer. We've got plenty, so they'll probably last us into the winter too. And then there wasn't anything in these while they were wintering, but now they are full of cabbages. These are cabbages that we can see here. Look, cabbages grow in a really interesting way because all of the leaves grow really, really big. Look, you can see them. And then they grow this like little head in the middle, and then all these leaves protect them, which I guess you see with like cauliflowers, but less so with cabbages normally. If we just lift this back, then we can have a look at those cabbages. Here we go, look. So here is the little little cabbage, look, inside there. It's like a heart. And then you can see the big leaves all around the outside as well. And if I put the camera just underneath, you'll see that that whole tunnel is full of these cabbages. Now, cabbages are linked to the Brassica family. So there are some others in a little bit further down that don't look quite as leafy as these. And it's not because they're not doing very well. It's because they are sprout plants. They're all part of the Brassica family as well. And obviously they just grow on a big stem. And then they're like little balls that grow off that, but they grow in a similar way to the cabbage because they're part of the same family. So you can see there's loads of cabbages down there, and then there are some cabbages down this end, and then a little bit further up there are some courgettes. So let's open it up and we'll have a look at how the courgettes grow. So here we go, look, here are our lovely courgette plants. And a great way to tell whether that they are courgette plants is these beautiful yellow flowers. Lots of plants give off flowers before they give off fruit, and the courgette is no different. Now, you can actually eat the courgette flower. We don't tend to, but you can. And then if we look, if we get right inside the plants, you can see that just underneath the courgette flower is the courgette. There's some more over there, and it's that bit that we eat. We can leave them and they'll grow a bit bigger. They're quite small at the moment. It's only the start of harvesting season. But yeah, so a courgette will start as just a green plant, and then it will grow these beautiful flowers, and then underneath these flowers grow the actual courgette bit, the actual bit that we tend to eat, the sort of green vegetable. But we don't tend to eat the leaves and things, but you can indeed eat the yellow flower. In this bed here, you can see the start of some beanstalks. And they grow up these canes, and they will be beans. So they will be, there's some runner beans here and some French beans here. It's very early for these. They're not quite ready for seeing anything, but they grow in a similar way in that they will have flowers here where the little buds are, and then everywhere that there are flowers you will get plants, like vegetables to eat. But at the minute these are still all very, very small. In here look, is where the sprouts are. So if I lift this up, you can see that this here looks similar. It's got similar leaves to that brassica, to that cabbage that we looked at earlier, but the stalk is very different. The stalk is quite big, and this will grow little hearts. It will grow sprouts off it. So they grow in a slightly different way. And these ones that are next to it will be cauliflowers. So the cauliflowers grow in a really similar way to the cabbages. The leaves will grow all the way around the plant to keep it nice and safe. They'll keep it locked inside, and the cauliflower's like a little heart on the inside. I'll show you the next bed because there's some interesting things in here, although this one has very much become overrun. This one needs weeding. So in this bed here, amongst all the weeds, are some really beautiful beetroots. And the reason that I know that these are beetroots is because of the colouring in the leaves. So beetroots are red in colour, and these leaves are red too. So with the beetroot, you can see here, look, these beautiful burgundy stems, they lead to beetroots. And with the beetroot, the actual plant itself is under the ground, and we will just pull that up, and that's where we will find the beetroot. The beetroot is another root vegetable, so it grows under the ground. It's the root that we actually eat. I'm not going to pull one of these up because they're definitely not ready yet. They will come to the surface a little bit more like the onions did when they are ready. But you can see here, look, we know this is beetroot because these leaves are beautiful and red in colour, and there'll be a gorgeous little beetroot under there. There'll be plenty of beetroot for the season. A few more raspberries here, and then let's go and have a look over here because we definitely spent lots of time over here before. These are all the strawberries. Now, there are nettles and things growing with them, but we've left them to grow because they are a way of keeping the fruit safe. We have the cage, which is a good way of keeping a lot of fruit safe, but the birds and the other things, that the wildlife out here really love strawberries. They're really tasty, so we let the nettles and things like that grow to protect the plants a little bit. But you can see in here, look, some beautiful little red strawberries around and about. And you can see here, look, this one is like a little green strawberry. So not that long ago, oh, is that one? Oh yes, it's ready. We'll try that. Look at that one, beautiful. So not that long ago, these were all just full of flowers. So all of the strawberry plants were full of flowers, and now those flowers have turned into green strawberries, and then those green strawberries are turning into red ones that are perfect for picking. Now these are much more in season. This is not the beginning of the season, so I'm hopeful. They're beautiful. I will be picking a few more of those to take home with me for some pudding later. I think they're really, really nice. Let's carry on further up and see what else we can see. There's a lot more to see during the spring than there is in the winter, just because everything's growing, everything's ready. So if we go inside the greenhouse, we've got some really lush, really green tomato plants when we head in. So these are our tomato plants here, and you can see yellow flowers here, look, and there are yellow flowers all the way down these plants, and then some green tomatoes here. They're a really great size, but you can see hanging off the, I've just knocked it off, hanging off the bottom of the tomato is like a little flower, and that's because everywhere that you see one of those little yellow flowers is where a tomato will grow. Okay, so you can see this is like a big old plastic tunnel, and then there's all sorts of things growing in here. Again, it's very warm in here. That's one of the real benefits to a polytunnel, is how warm it becomes. So you can see down here that we've got lettuce of various different varieties, and there are some radishes down here too. Growing it like this is great because it means you can just come and pick a little bit, because all of this is ready for eating now, so I can pick some salad and take it home with me for later. We've also got some more tomatoes in here because they need their space. You can see that there's space in between each of the plants. Obviously they're quite a big plant, so they require quite a decent root system. So under the ground they've got quite big roots, and they need that to be, in order to be strong, because obviously in prime season you can see that they have 4 or 5 fruit in each location. That one there has 6, and so they become quite heavy plants, so they need quite good root system. But in order to have that, they obviously need to have a little bit of space in between as well, so these ones do. And then in the corner there, now this just looked dead when we were here in the winter, but it isn't. This is a vine, so you can see it growing all up there and around there. Eventually one day this will provide grapes, but at the moment it's fruitless. We've looked after it for a few years now, and it grows and it gets lovely and big and green now in the summer, which it didn't to start with, but it's yet to provide fruit. But fruit trees are often like that. There are some plum trees at the front that were fruitless for 3 years, but they have fruit on them this year, so that's great. But so we will continue to nurture the vine for a few more years, and hopefully it will provide us with some grapes. And then out here, all of these down here are potatoes. So there are buckets at the bottom, which you can't quite see. If I move these back, then you'll see. There are buckets at the bottom, and each of the buckets has 2 or 3 seed potatoes in it. And from that we should grow quite a healthy crop of potatoes this year. All of these have potatoes in, and with potatoes, as the plants are growing, we bank the soil up so that the seed potatoes end up being deeper and deeper, and therefore you end up fooling the plants into thinking that it's not quite time yet, and so they get bigger and bigger. So hopefully there are some good strong plants this year. So when it comes to harvesting, we'll be able to pull those up, and on the bottom will be lots and lots of little potatoes. Now, these all look the same, and I certainly couldn't tell the difference looking at them like this, but in each one there is a little sign that tells us what it is. So these ones here are Nadine ones, and also at what point in the season they should be picked, because the beauty of doing potatoes like this is that we can have them in buckets where we can pick some at the beginning of the season, and then some in the middle of the season, and some at the end of the season, meaning that we've got fresh potatoes for quite a good proportion of the year, which is great. There was one more plant that we looked at when we were here in the winter, and I said, you wait and see until when we come back, because it grows huge. Let's go and see it. Here it is. That there is one leaf. They are enormous. And this one here is rhubarb. So this whole bed here is full of rhubarb. We don't actually eat the leaves, it's what's underneath the leaves that we eat. So you can see here, look, these like stems are the rhubarb bit. They are the bit that we eat. So if we wanted one, then we could break it off, and it would break. Oh, the leaf is in the way. It would break off from here. Here's the rest of the plant. We could break it off there, or we could get a knife and we could cut it off. The rhubarb is great. The rhubarb is best early season, so it's great now, and then it will get a little bit more tart as the season goes on. It's still great, and you can put it in crumbles and use a little bit of sugar with it. It's quite a sour fruit anyway, but yeah, these leaves are absolutely enormous. They just grow crazy once we get the right weather. So some really big changes. All of those fruits and vegetables have changed from the first time that we were here. Some of them didn't look like anything when we were here, and now they're big and they're green. Some of them have got their flowers, some of them have got their fruit now. So it really does go to show that in the space of like a few months, in the space of one season, we go from nothing to everything. And that's why it's really important to try and eat things when they're in season. So for us, root vegetables either start earlier or they last longer. Things like fruit have quite a short season, especially because when they're outside, the birds and the wildlife love them. And it's been really, really hot here recently, so that has quite a big impact on the way that things grow. And like I said, you really do need the water. And so for those things that we grow in the greenhouse and the polytunnel, so that they're warmer, although those things do keep them warm and therefore make them grow better, they also mean that we have to come and water them more regularly. So it's quite a big commitment. I hope you've done some really great learning about all the plants and things that we grow here at the allotment. There's certainly a lot here. Whatever you do the rest of your day, have a great one. Bye bye.
Hello Angel students. Today I want to start our lesson by asking you a question. What would you say is your most valuable and expensive asset, the thing that you own? What is the most valuable and expensive thing that you own? Now, bear in mind, we all have this. Every single one of us, no matter how old or young we are, every single one of us has this one thing. So I would like you to think about what that could be and have a good think about your answer. Give me your top 3 answers. Got an answer for me? So the thing that I'm talking about is very unique, but it is also limited. So we all have it. It's incredibly unique in the way that we use it, in the way that we make decisions with it, in the ways that we give it to other people. We share it with other people and even give it and share it with ourselves only. But it is a limited asset. It is something that is limited, that we own, that belongs to us, that we all have. It's actually nothing like toys or money. It's something that once it's gone, we cannot get it back. It's not something you can just get back. It's not something you can replace. So it's not anything that you can kind of touch or see or hold. It's not a tangible thing where you can see it, taste it, touch it, you know, that kind of thing with your senses, but we do all own it. Have you gotten any closer to the answer as yet? Well, if you have or you haven't, I'm now going to share with you the answer. The answer is time. We all have time. Time is incredibly precious, and it is one of our most valuable and expensive assets, things that we own, every single one of us. So now, do you understand what I meant when I said once it's gone, it's not something that you can get back? We don't just get to step into a time machine and go back to a specific moment in time and redo it or change something or take something back that was said or done. Once we have gone through a specific period of time, that's it, it's gone and we don't get it back. However, I am going to share with you how we can make the most of our time, how we can enjoy the time that we have doing the things that we choose to do, and therefore avoiding anything that we don't necessarily want to do. Can you think of a moment in time that you wish you could go back to and just have enjoyed it a little bit more? Or maybe, you know, when you're having so much fun, you don't want it to be over and you wish that there was more time that you could spend there, that you could have to experience the joy that you're feeling in that moment. Personally, I love theme parks. So I love to go on the rides and the roller coasters. That I don't think there's any that I haven't been on or that I wouldn't go on. The height doesn't bother me, the speed doesn't bother me. The only thing I do wish is that it lasted a longer amount of time. It seems like you queue for a very long time to get on these rides, and then once you're on them, it's over very, very quickly. So that's something that I wish we could have much more time doing for myself. So I'm asking you now if there is anything that you would like to spend more time doing, or when you are in a specific moment, if you would like that time having that fun to be even longer. There are other instances where sometimes patience is required, and patience, of course, can seem like something is taking a very long time because you have to sit back, relax, stay calm, and just be patient. And in being patient, sometimes you don't know how much time you have to give to something before you get the result that you would like to see. You could be in a queue, for example. You could be waiting in a queue and you have a rough idea of how much patience you may need to have and exercise, because you can see how many people are in front of you in that queue. So you have a rough idea of how long or not you may have to wait for something. And then there are other instances where you may need to exercise patience because you have no idea quite yet what the outcome may be, or how soon you may get the answer that you need or the result that you're looking for. You may yourself need to give patience to you. You may have a decision you need to make. It could be anything, but exercising patience is a great way to make sure you do not give your time away. Remember, it's very expensive. For example, having to be patient myself, I can share with you doing some online shopping. And these days we expect everything the next day or in 2 days' time maybe, but not everywhere that you might buy from online has such a quick turnaround. They may not necessarily be able to deliver that quickly. So I had to exercise some patience for something that I really wanted. It was for a friend of mine, a very special gift. So I had to be patient with that small business that was selling online because they would take a little bit longer to get the product that I had ordered to me. And that's okay. If you want something, if you want to achieve something, if you want to create something, sometimes you will have to exercise some patience. Sometimes you will have to exchange some time for what you really want. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that is something that is productive, it is useful, it's something you desire. Therefore, you're not really going to be too concerned about the time that was given to reap that reward. So when making decisions or Having conversations and communication with people that can help you to get to where you want to go, or get a result that you want, or in this instance, it was to get the perfect product for me as a gift. You will need to be patient, because if not, sometimes we can get impatient, which can cause frustration. And frustration usually leads to a breakdown of communication, and that can be getting irritated or making assumptions and therefore usually being wrong about something. Imagine if I had said to this seller, well, I need this by this date because it's for my friend. The seller has nothing to do with that. They have a product that I want, and they're going to do their best to get it to me in a timely manner, as quickly as they possibly can. So the best thing for me to do, because I want this product, is to exercise some patience, have the best possible, respectful, well-mannered communication with the seller that I possibly can, so that they know I love their product. I'm really looking forward to receive it. And if there's any way that they could send it to me any quicker, I would really appreciate it. So always be thoughtful of the things that you say as well, because you might be feeling a little bit impatient in moments where you need to be patient. Because once something is said in a moment of time, remember, angel students, you cannot get that time back. We have spoken here on this channel many a time about planning and the importance of planning. So in this context of time, can you see how important it is to plan any activities that you want to do, any work that you have to do, any social time with friends and family that you want to do, and carving out, choosing specific moments of time so that you can make time for everything that is important to you, as well as the things that are necessary for you to do, and how doing that can make sure that you also have time for you. Having time for yourself is just as important as making time for your work, for your chores, for your friends and family. It is all important. Having time to make sure you are good, your mind is calm and at peace, you are taking care of yourself, you are drinking your water, you have time to get your rest, you have time to accomplish all your goals in a timely manner, so that you feel you are using your time in the best way possible to get the results that you desire. You have the control to decide what you do with your time, especially if it's alone time, and you can decide by knowing what you want, deciding what you want, then how you are best to use your time to do those things, to implement and put those things into your life, so that you feel as if you are spending time doing things that make you feel good, because it is all about how we feel. If we do not feel as if we are using our time wisely, we may feel like we want that time back and we can't get it back. And this is another reason why it is so important to spend time doing things that make you feel good, doing things that make all your strengths come to light. What things are you good at? What things make you happy? What things is it that you do that are very creative and unique to you, that make you feel as if all your strengths are on display? They make the time just disappear. You're doing something and you're so engrossed and wrapped up in what it is that you are doing that time is of no issue. It could be 5 hours later and you haven't even realized, because you entirely and completely love what it is that you are doing, or the people that you are spending time with, because that is important too. Spending time with loved ones, doing things that bring joy and laughter, peace and calm, all of those things add to how special and how importantly we use our time. So that brings me on to things that we don't want to do with our time, and we may not always be in a position to say no. We may not always be able to say I don't want to do that. There are going to be times when we have to do things that we don't always want to do. I'm afraid that's a part of life. However, there are times when you will be able to say no, and I encourage you to have the confidence and the boldness to say no when you have the choice. If there is something that you really don't want to do, and you are in a position to be able to decline something that you are being offered to do that you don't want to do, do so. I encourage you to do so. If there is something that you know you should not be doing, and there is pressure coming from anyone, it could even be somebody that says they are your friend, but you know that's not something that you should be doing. Have the integrity to say no to things that you know you are not supposed to do. Do not feel pressured. Do not feel peer pressured. Do not feel as if you ever have to do anything that you know you are not supposed to do. Anything that could get you in trouble, anything that could be dangerous, anything that could get you hurt. I encourage you to exercise your right to say no. You never have to do anything that you know you are not supposed to do. If you feel uncomfortable, speak to an adult. Talk to somebody that can help you in that position if you ever feel as if you're finding it difficult to say no, because sometimes it can be difficult. It's not easy to just say no. Unfortunately, it's not always easy. But if you know it is something that you are not supposed to do, don't do it. When we are building meaningful relationships, making memories, building our dreams and doing everything that we can to create the life that we want for ourselves, those things take time. There are a lot of things that do not happen overnight. And I know sometimes we'll look at things online, you know, whether it be here on YouTube, it could be on other social media platforms, and it looks like some people have just the perfect lives. And it can also look like it didn't take a lot of time for them to get there, because you're seeing where they are right now in time. But what we don't see is the work that was put in over the years to get to the point that they're at now. So I want you to think about how you use your time, Angel students. How important is your time? How much do you value your time? Do you value other people's time? How patient are you? How invested in giving it time and being patient are you with building meaningful relationships, having very close friendships and meaningful times and building memories with friends and family? How much time are you giving to your strengths and your creativity and your goals? How are you using your time? And how could you possibly use your time better? Before we go, I want to share with you a very, very, very short poem. It's incredibly short, but it's very impactful. When I first read this poem, it had me thinking quite a lot about my time, and it helped me to practice saying no to things that I didn't want to do and that I didn't actually find fun or to be great experiences for me. I was just going along with it because perhaps I'd been asked or invited, or I just didn't have the confidence to say no. So I'm going to share that with you and leave you with those questions, and I'd really encourage you to think about those questions and answer them honestly. I must say, before I read the poem, one of the things I remembered or that came to mind when I read this poem for the first time was if you've ever seen Alice in Wonderland, you may remember the little white rabbit. And the little white rabbit was always running about. You know, can't be late, gotta get to where he was just always rushing. So he never really slowed down and took time, valued his time, enjoyed his time. He just always had somewhere to be. And it made me think of that. So let me share this poem with you now before I go. I have only just a minute. Only 60 seconds in it. Forced upon me, can't refuse it. But it's up to me to use it. Give account if I abuse it. Just a tiny little minute, but eternity is in it. Have a think about that poem along with the rest of the questions, and I will see you next time. Goodbye, Angel students.
Hi everyone, here's a video for Angel School. Now let's do a quick exercise for the joint first. Wrist and ankles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, change. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, knee. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, change. 1, 2, 3, change. 1, 2, 3. Relax your hips. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Change. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Elbow on. Open up your lungs. Hands reach out far as you can. 1, 2. This one's good for your lung function. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One hand's up, one hand's down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. For the elbow, look back. 1. Breathing up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Arms straight. Relax your shoulders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Change. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. Okay, good. And relax your neck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On your shoulders, full circle. 1, 2, 3. Change. 1, 2, 3. Relax your back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're gonna do a little bit stance and punching. So first we're gonna do 10 push-ups, squat jump to warm up. So hands on the floor, push up, stand up, jump. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you feel easier, you can do on your fist. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Let's do first Kung Fu stance. Marble stretch. 3.5 foot wide. Bend your knees. Push your knee out. Breathing in, forward. Breathing out in your body. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, Second one, gumbo stretch. One leg bends, one leg straight. When you feel stretching, focus on your breathing 10 times. Use your breathing to stretch. 1. Breathing in, breathing out through your nose. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, change. One leg bends, one leg straight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Marble change to combo. So last time we punch, we one hand block, one hand punch. So same direction. Yeah. So if we go left, you punch your left hand. Go right, you punch right hand. Today we're going to do slightly different. Yeah. So this time, when we go left, you punch your right hand. When you go right, you punch your left hand. Yeah. Let's do 10 times. So let's do marble. 1, punch. 2, 3, block, then punch. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, block, punch, 9, block, and punch, 10, block, and punch. Yeah? So when you go left, you punch your right hand. When you go right, you punch your left hand. So that's the next part of the forms. We're going to practice a little bit together. So last time we finished block and punch. So today we're going to carry on. For example, here, finish your right leg in front. Then keep your feet together and the right hand block. Yeah, right hand block. So right heel up. Yeah. Then stand up, face on your waist. Then kick again. Kick your right leg. Then bend your leg. Right hand block. Punch your left hand. And that's the one we just practiced. Okay, try one more time. So this time, right leg in the front, right hand block, left hand punch. So keep your feet together, and right hand block. Make sure your right heel up, then stand up. Then pen your kick. Kick finish, bend your knees, step, marble block, and gumbo punch. And stop. Let's try one more time. So left hand block, left hand punch, sorry. Then step back, feet together, and right hand block. And stand up, 单拍脚, right hand block, and left hand punch, and stop. So we do same, I'm going to try a different direction. example, earlier we did a right left hand punch. This time, same left leg in front, right hand punch. Yeah. Then feet together. Left hand block. Yeah. Left heel up this time. Then stand up. Kick your left leg. Left leg forward. Left hand punch block. Then punch your right hand. Okay, try again. Left leg in the front, left hand block, right hand punch. So feet together, left hand block. Yeah, left heel up, stand up, facing your waist, 单拍脚. Bend your knees when you finish. Step forward, block, then punch. And stop. Inhale. And exhale. Let's try one more time. So same. Left leg in the front. Left hand block, right hand punch. 1, feet together. Left hand block. And stand up. Facing your waist. 单拍脚. Then left hand block. Then right hand punch. And stop. Inhale and down. And exhale. Let's practice a few breathing exercises. 2 foot wide. Slightly bend your knees, foot down, knee, hips, back straight, and arm straight, fingers straight. Take your hands, breathing in, hands up. When you're breathing in, collecting good energy into your body. Breathing out, relax your shoulders, elbow, hands pushing down to maximum. Imagine you're going to touch the floor. Let's do it 4 more times. Breathing in, good energy into your body. Breathing in through your nose. Breathing out through your nose. Three more. Two more. Breathing in the energy to repair your body. Breathing out, release the tension from your body. Last one. Breathing in. And breathing out. Okay. Let's finish it today.
Please like and subscribe so you can get more and more lessons.